Back to another episode of Unranked Podcast. We're coming to you today, a couple weeks after the draft. We took some time to just think about the Lions draft, kind of looking at some of the picks they made, and we'll be jumping into that, talking about all the picks they made total. I mean, let me see, one, two, three, four, five, yeah, six total picks. Some really good picks. Give our draft grade, talk about each player. So I'll kick it over to you, E. And just to start things off, want to see your thoughts on the draft, and if you had a draft grade that you'd like to share as well.
I would guess I would say the one thing I like about taking a couple of weeks and not jumping right into this like the day of or moment of like a live reaction is just kind of take some time to kind of mold it over. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we do a lot of studying on random players and watch a lot of football even throughout just in our everyday life. But there's still players on here that we drafted I've never heard of before or I didn't know much about. So it's good just to kind of watch everybody's little 6 7 minute highlight tape, read the
Mm-hmm.
little player bios. And but overall I would say I like what we did. I'll go out, say I'll give it like a strong B somewhere in there, and that, like, definitely passing, very solid draft. I like some of the moves we did as far as getting aggressive. I know uh, we ended up moving up. I forget what that would be, like 4 spots, 6 spots, something like that. Uh, to get Terrion Arnold, I think one of the things where I'm not gonna act like I know a lot about him, but you can't go wrong with an Alabama corner. You can't go wrong with just the amount of players they've played against, NFL players. All the same things we said about Kool Aid. Just that he seems to be one of the guys that's just a little bit more of a hot commodity for whatever reason. I don't think we could have been wrong with either one of them, but we arguably got the best corner in the draft. Many number one corners on a lot of boards. Moved up a couple spots to get them. Did cost us a solid pick in that third round, but overall that was an extra pick that we had from some of the previous moves that we made. So we went out and got a guy that we fell in love with. Then we circled the block back with another corner. That was shocking.
Yeah.
But when I had time to fully process it, first and foremost, I'm glad it wasn't a receiver. But outside of that, I mean, when you look at the stats from the last, call it 6 weeks of the year, just go back and look at the box scores of what receivers did against us.
Yeah.
It was career days every single week, whether it was Amari Cooper or
Mike Evans,
Jefferson
TD
or Mike
Lamb.
Evans. It was, yeah. So we were opening up the record books for people every single week. So it's good that we have a complete overhaul in the defensive back room. We brought in two cornerbacks, Carlton Davis, blanking on the other guy we signed, and then
Malik Robinson.
yep, and then we go get Arnold and Rankshaw. I just complete overhaul of that room, desperately
Mm-hmm.
needed, and I think that's going to be a night and day on making both the front end of our defense and the back end of our defense better. Along with all the free agent signings we did on the defensive line, our defense should be pretty stout next year. Although we're going to be young in spots, we're also have a good mix of vets in there as well. So I think we addressed top of the draft probably our biggest need, and that would be defense and just help out that cornerback room. And I think both of these guys are going to be pretty solid, but one of these guys are bound to hit, and then you got
Mm-hmm.
a real deal starter on your
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. I mean, this draft, I just feel like I'd say this was essentially what I wanted it to look like. Not completely exactly, but wanted to at least see a corner. We got two. Wanted to at least see an offensive lineman. We got two. Wanted a defensive end. Didn't think we'd get one just because of like the signings we made, and some of the free agencies we brought
hands.
in. But they even stuck back in there and got another D lineman. So yeah, I mean, I think my grade, I do A minus. I just feel like it almost just felt like they just saw that game last year, kind of in the season was just like if we go out, if we crash out again, we're not going out that way. That's just what it felt like, essentially. What's kind of crazy too, man, is like I mean, this like we just upped on the depth. Like obviously this is like early May, but like I'm looking at like a depth chart now. Um, I mean, Terrion Arnold might be the only one to start. A lot of these guys like Rakestraw, you got him as like a backup for the nickel. Right now like behind Branch, but I mean Mahogany, Giovanni, like Giovanni's definitely like a
Project.
experiment, yeah,
Yeah.
so to speak. But I don't blame him. I mean, dude was 6'9", well, like what 6'6", 6'7", like 350,
Massive. Yeah.
ran a 4'9", and they think he's gonna be a guard. Like that's what they at least see him at. But I'm thinking, I'm like, I thought y'all, was trying to draft the next Taylor Decker or, Sewell, like, basically, whoever, however you wanted to kind of do that, whether you replace Decker and then keep Sewell on the other side, or you put Sewell at left tackle and then put, Giovanni at right tackle down the road. But yeah, I mean, I like how we just addressed. This is a nice compliment to the free agency that, what we did there to just kind of bolster um the team overall. And I don't know, I feel like it's just gonna be a lot of competition too, especially in the secondary and on the D line, because
Yep.
a lot of them guys that even like Kaminsky got signed back. Pascal, he's going into his third year. Like some of these guys, the ones we was calling on, asking them to make a play, earlier in the season. But
Yeah.
now you got these guys that are gonna be ready to come in and make some plays. So I think they just open the door for much needed competition.
Yes.
Make sure that defense is as stout as it needs to be next season.
Yeah, no, that's gonna be one of my other points. Just still sharp and still. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is a what have you done for me lately league, and you got to keep that competition flowing. You got to, the defensive line completely overhaul. We brought in the Canadian football guy. We signed Reader. We drafted somebody. I think I'm missing somebody, and I think we might have signed another somebody else in free agency. But outside of that, cornerback room, I just spoke on that. So I just think that competitiveness mindset, the mindset of you got to come in and compete week in and week out. We haven't talked about other younger players that are had glimpses of greatness and then glimpses of looking like a young player, and Kirby Joseph, Branch, great when he was playing, but then he got or he was getting injured and knocked
Banged
out
up.
for weeks on end. So one of those things where if you can put it all together, this defense should be incredible. But even if
Mm-hmm.
not, and from time to time, which is gonna happen, you have players drop, get injured, hopefully for just little minor spouts. You have the other players that you can step in and see what they're about. I believe Carlton Davis is on a 1 year deal. So we drafted two corners here. That I see exactly what they're doing here. Now we have seem to have a GM who's been here long enough that he can begin to fully play out his plans. Especially because they seem to be working. So I see his vision.
Mm-hmm.
He traded it a third round pick for a starting cornerback. You can come here, make this 20 M's. If you want to make a deal, we can make a deal with you. If not, we have your replacement second round guy we just took out of Missouri.
Yeah.
Year before. That type of situation where I think we're heading in the right direction as far as just team building, and you
Mm-hmm.
can see the vision. We spoke on how the O line is kind of the driving force of this whole squad. Two-headed running back attack, and so it was good to see them bring in somebody like a high risk low reward guy. I mean, I think where did we get him? Fourth or fifth round. The Giovanni guy I'm talking about. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, as soon as he got drafted, all you started seeing was look how big he is, look how fast he ran. Obviously he's playing in a league that we don't know much about at all, but one of those situations where uh, that's pretty much a win-win. We don't expect a fifth round pick to be really on the team in 3 or 4 years. So
Right.
but if you do happen to get a guy that just for whatever reason was overlooked because he went to a small school, maybe he's too big, maybe whatever. That is, and then we can sit there on the back burner until whoever Decker retires or somebody, and then just slide him on in. That's the type of situation that you look at the other teams who are in the playoffs every single year are doing, where
For
they
sure.
have homegrown talent, people that they've set on the back burner for a couple of years. And I see us kind of putting that together here as well. It's a good play, man. you know, I mean, obviously expectation level is through the roof. Coming off, the championship game, and obviously a tough loss there, jumping out the gate hot, and I'm trying to honestly level my expectations myself. You say that it's still a hard game,
Yeah,
but I think reloading on this draft, we said it a while back. If you can get 2, 3 starters out of this draft, we should be right back where we are. And I think we probably got 2 or 3 starters, definitely got 2 or 3 pretty big contributors. Um,
for sure.
yeah.
On
So,
defense. So,
yep,
so I'm just gonna just read through real quick. Like this is just ESPN, like their projected starters. Obviously, it's May, but like I just want to read that, and then I'm gonna read off the second team defense just to kind of show the depth and just the names you're gonna hear. So the starters is Hutch, McNeil, Reeder. They have Davenport. That could be between Kaminsky and Pascal, but Campbell, Anzalone, Derek Barnes, Carlton Davis, Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, and Terry Arnold. But even like the backups, so we got like Levi, Onzarike, Broderick Martin, Kaminsky, Reeves Maben. So all pro special teamer last year. Malcolm Rodriguez, James Houston, Amit Robinson, Iffy Melifonwu, and then Rakestraw. So like I'm
yeah,
just excited about the depth. Like you said, guys definitely gonna lose a guy or two. That's inevitable. It happens every season. We lost hella players this year, was still able to hold it together. So now we've threw a couple more players, got them in the cabinet. So somebody go down, you can just bring them right
yep,
in and not really, skip a step. And there's guys that they have third, like the third team that played like critical snaps for us last season. So yeah, I mean, I'm excited about how just to see how when it comes to the defense, how they continue to use Brian Branch, how they continue to use Iffy, how these guys will kind of work in with that. Um, Gotta imagine Need Terrion, he got to be day one starter if he's gonna be 21st overall. So you got to imagine that he's gonna be on that right cornerback, and then you got guys like Emmanuel Mosley that if he's healthy, you know what I'm saying, that's somebody that it could go a couple ways. We could have some of these rookies come in and make immediate impacts, or we could get a healthy Mosley back and have him next to Carlton Davis, have Branch, a couple of them safeties interchanging, and it's just good to have options because using the cupboard analogy last year, it was just so bare on in the secondary in the D line, towards the end of the season to where it was like, I'm just glad that I feel like Brad was just like, okay, like we tried to kind of feel like it was like, short chain, you know what I'm saying? Just kind of, I think we talked about it, how you got like the cornerstone on one end, you're gonna try to make this like uh sacks by association on the other end,
yep,
and he finally did it, and we lost Houston. Other guys weren't getting the job done. So he's like, all right, now everybody got to fight for
yeah.
snaps this year because people
And when that
wasn't
happened,
open.
when that happened, it neutralized Hutch. I mean, as good as
Yeah,
he is, he was getting some pressures, but the sacks
yeah,
disappeared, tackles for loss disappeared. Um, you know, it that defensive end spot does rely on that defensive line moves as a unit so much
for sure.
that because of how the offensive line are going to play them. So I think
Mhm.
it's one of those situations where you got to have a counterpart on the other side, or they're just going to tee off on me.
Yep.
Uh, and
Her
he was
secondary
holding
too,
he was holding his own still when he was getting double, sometimes triple teamed.
for
But
sure.
it was one of those situations where you got to have a reader in the middle that's you got to respect. You got to have Houston on the other bookend that you got to respect. Um,
Hmm.
it's it's one of those situations where I like what we're doing. I would still have loved, especially when now that we're kind of talking it out a little bit, and maybe we could have got a starter at defensive end with that 62nd pick and not a fourth corner. But
Yeah.
I do think I, I'm just going to roll with it that I think we needed the depth there as well. And if we're healthy on the D line, that we have enough bodies, enough boots on the ground to get it done there. And maybe they just didn't believe in what we had going on at in the defensive back room. And on top of that, you know, crazy legal issues with another guy, a projected starter. So I
Out
think,
of nowhere.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think we needed to get good there as well because that was a guy we had penciled in for 17 games next year starting. So I
Hmm.
think, yeah,
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and not even I feel like if there's anything, that's probably the same thing for me. Maybe just wanted to see them get an edge rusher like a little bit sooner in the draft, like or earlier, excuse me, in the draft. Because I was like you, I mean, I'm like, but I think I saw like the Davenport signing, and then reminded myself they got some guy that led the league in sacks in the Canadian League, and I'm just like, all right, he's going to try to kind of do this like, you know, team like Hutch, and then whoever's hot that day type deal. But I get it because we also saw what them contracts looked like for Sewell and St. Brown. So he's holding off, trying to do what he
and
can
it's
to
one of
make
those
sure
things where
everybody
maybe
getting
he's
paid.
ready to go for it. I mean, last year,
Yeah,
Sweat popped up, um, Chase Young popped up. I know they're talking Max Crosby's disgruntled, so maybe you can turn around and get Max Crosby for a third round pick, week 4 or something. I think maybe they're thinking long term where they think somebody else will pop up,
yeah.
um, or just circle the block next year, and that's when we go and spend a first round
Get
pick and get Hutch's
so
guy.
yeah.
Yeah, and versus you know, rushing into it this year. I do think they're looking when we can just talk about the draft for a hot second. I mean, I forget the exact number, but I want to say first 15 picks, let's call it, were offensive players,
Offense.
which I've obviously nobody's ever seen that before.
Mhm.
So people fell in love with their quarterbacks. I mean, what, 5 or 6 gone in the first 15, 16 picks. I mean, so a lot of that defensive talent that if people had their mind on straight would have, you know, let's say 4 guys that went in their 20s would have been in, you know, 0 through or pick 1 through 15 or something. So I think we
Mhm.
got we got a lot of high talent guys just due to how crazy the draft was and people falling.
For
Um,
sure.
I don't want to steal your story, but as far as the Raiders and what they did as far as who they determined to pick, I mean, so our guy could have went with the 13th pick. Um,
Yeah.
and so it just shows you like the amount of uh like what's good like value we got with him at the 24, even though we did move up, we did burn I think the 73rd pick to go get him. But
Hmm.
if you feel that confident in your guy, I'm rolling with it. So
Yeah. And I'll even say too, just kind of how the draft, because when I started hearing we was gonna move up, I'm like, okay, but that's all it might be for a corner. You still just don't know, you know what I'm saying? But like, I'm like, we move up. Are we gonna try to get one of these edge rushers? But as the draft went on, Turner, unfortunately, went to the Vikings. Um, my man's that went to the Rams, Jared Verse. Those are
yeah,
definitely
yep,
like a couple guys that I'm like, if we move up, like I wanna get one of them. But I think either way, like I think we sat on here for months and was like D line, cornerback, O line in no particular order, best
yep,
available. I think I would have probably D line, corner, O line, or D line, O line, corner. No, I'm sorry, probably corner, D line, O line, or corner, O line, D line. But I'm just glad all the needs got addressed, and I really do feel like the guy Mahogany and Wingo, just keep hearing about how like people are just shocked that both of those guys fell. So we might have gotten some impact starters, without even knowing it, which is
right.
just
Yeah, I mean, I think, and that seems to be one of his game plans as far as like, I mean, we can go JMO. Technically, was an injured player. Probably would have been the first receiver taken off the board. We moved up and got him. Pascal,
a
injured
little
knee.
banged up.
We moved up and
Yeah,
got him. So I think that seems to be the name of his game. I think the jury's out on whether you say it's working or not to a full extent, but it's one of those things where I'm I'm perfectly fine. I'm way less. The JMO one was a big one to move up to 12 and get that.
yeah,
Um, I don't forget exactly how we got Pascal, but I know we moved, or I don't even know if we moved up to get him, but we took him. And then so I'm way
yeah,
less. I'm way less. Uh, we have less invested when we get one of these guys 4th, 5th, 6th round. At that point,
yeah.
it is kind of a gamble. So I'm more fine with that in as far as
Low risk, high
drafting a
reward.
drafting an injured guy or drafting a behemoth to see if it works out. It's cool with me.
Mhm. Yeah. and then too, I don't know, I think the most probably the most goofy pick, but even then it's like because he can play safety too, is the running that dude Baki. I guess they've been telling him that he's gonna play running back, but I think I mean he started at safety in college as well. He started at safety in college, but he's also playing receiver and running back for Utah. I like where he came from. But it was I didn't like hate the pick just because he can play multiple positions. Um, but that is just one of those like definitely like higher in the gamble side of things where it's like but I feel like he's one of those guys where even if he's just a special team superstar, we'll probably forget about him, then it'll take somebody's head off on opening kickoff. You know what I'm saying? And it'll be like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, we got this just
yeah. I see
like
why we did it. Right.
wall of knives just running around destroying people, once every other game. So I think that's like his ceiling or his floor. Then his ceiling is like a couple guys get hurt, come in there, whether on offense or defense. A couple guys get hurt, and he can kind of fill in here and there if he needs to. But I
Yeah,
see obviously they're gonna probably try to like focus on running back from here, like to start, and then kind of see what happens from there.
yeah. I'm like you said, a weird pick. That's what I'll
Yeah.
call it. And it's one of the things I actually have watched a lot of Utah football over the last 2 years. And he's one of the guys that they're always talking about. He jumps. It's obviously
Yeah.
it's a unique thing for a guy to have a touchdown run and then next play get a sack. That's one of the on his highlight tape. So one of those
Wow.
unique
Yeah.
things, and also I'm cool with that type of gamble as well. I guess I can't think of anybody in particular that I know went off the board around that time where I would have said we should have got him.
Hmm.
But definitely weird, I would say. And it I don't know. It'd be interesting to see him just fully transition into one thing, and if he can do it, and you know, if I'm just odd. It is in general just odd because I almost feel like we definitely don't need to help in the defensive back room. So you're going to go to running back. I don't know. It's a weird situation, and it makes me wonder if he was that talented at running back, then why didn't the Utah coaches see it? Uh, I don't know. It's just
Yeah.
the whole thing is a little weird, but one of those things where I think it fits. It does kind of fit with what we're trying to do with weird, unorthodox shit. And a guy that's just, I'm sure he's physical as hell, and all that type of stuff. I think that's kind of what we're leaning into.
Like I can
Uh,
see him. I can already see him being on special teams as like a weapon, and he's gonna be in some fake punt. Like I think that'll be a lot of what he's doing on the special teams, and I think even watching. I think I watched an interview with Brad Holmes, and he mentioned him kind of just they look at him as like a weapon. So it's just like whatever he starts to shine at the soonest, it feels like that's probably gonna be
right. Yeah.
what they
What they lean into. Yeah.
yeah, what they lean into. But like I said, I think it'll target special teams for sure. Looking at this, yeah, and I think overall, just excited about I think these two corners, like looking at them, especially like Rakestraw, like we already kind of said it earlier, but he's supposed to be a first rounder, and I guess he just had a little groin issue, only ran a 4.5 in the combine. And
Hmm.
so, see some of these teams, like it just gets me excited because it's like you hear everybody, like even when he got drafted, everybody is like, I remember, I think one of the analysts literally was like, he ran a 4.5 in the combine, but me personally, I had no problem with him or at all as a player. Like this is a steal, and I'm like, just got excited, excited immediately. Like did a little bit of research on him and such, but that's just another like a little banged up. Brad is like, hell, the season don't start till August, so whatever you gotta, whatever you gotta get right. Everybody got time, but yeah, low risk, high reward. That's how I feel like Brad's operating right now.
Yeah. I heard about the injury, and that's one of those things where, yeah, I mean, I think just the statement of 4.5
Hmm.
probably scares people away, even though 4.48 or something or four,
Yeah,
people don't even
four,
care.
five,
It's just that,
one.
yeah, it's just
Yeah,
that hitting that 4 or 5 threshold is like a if
like
you're not a big ass receiver or somebody
or a
like that,
safety.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they don't, yeah, it's gonna scare people away. So that doesn't terrify me at all. And I forget if it's him or the other guy. I've already seen a video of him in like some type of boot or some shit that I don't know. I could say,
Oh,
but um, regardless, I look at also just what teams in our division did. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. They're obviously, I'm just gonna be honest, they're on our ass.
Yeah.
He hit the ground running, or he did not hit the ground running last year, but by the end of the thing, he was in full stride. I think they won a playoff game. So it was one of those things where they're coming hot. Chicago, they complete overhaul of that offense. We got to see what Caleb Williams can do. I agree with you, but we got to see what he can do.
No.
They drafted a receiver in top 10 as well. We got JJ in the tuck. So I think if you look at the landscape of our own division, one of them two quarterbacks is gonna hit. And we already got Jordan Love here. So it's one of those things where we got a lot of talent in there, and I think we were sitting back and saying, okay, we got a lot of. He's not gonna hurt us either way, but we potentially have a lot of good young offensive talent injected into our conference this draft, and we can be neutralized that by improving our run game as well as getting all these lockdown cornerbacks. So I think that we also kind of looked at the landscape of our own division and see, I think it'll be funny to look back in a couple of years if we're competing against the Bears for a division title, and the draft they went two offensive players, we countered with two defensive players, and it's going to be kind of like we're pounding it for 180, 200 yards on the ground with a top 10 defense. I think that's kind of how I envision, if this worked out perfectly fine for us. Because I think we have to look at the landscape of the division, and a lot of good injection as far as young talent and potential threats. So I think we did a good job of just reing up our own arsenal and making sure that we're safe on the home front, and we can maintain what we build upon and maintain what we had going last year. So.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing we have out of every team, aside from just like draft picks and the players itself, is like continuity. Well, you got like obviously Green, they all have like all their head coaches, but a lot of new coordinators, new position coaches, to where we kept everybody, and we brought in a hopefully better defensive line coach to kind of help with the pass rush and help these players be a little more violent up front. So we ain't got goofy ass places like Woodward Sports saying they need more from Hutch.
Yeah. Big facts.
So, but yeah, I think exciting drafts. I mean, it's always a little skeptical kind of walking into, them things. It's kind of thinking like, what are we going to do? But I think the only one that had me kind of tilting my head was the Manu pick, and then the Vaki pick. I was just kind of like, even Manu, I'm just kind of like, it was just a slight tilt. But like Vaki, I'm like, okay, like what's going on here? But like I said, that'll be somebody we'll see week 5, week 6, just do something that have everybody loving them.
Yeah, that's I agree with you on that. One of the things, he is one of the, I think he's and it just sounds cliche, but just a ball player. I think it might take time to figure out what he can and can't do. And
Travis Hunter.
Yeah, right. Yeah, poor man Travis Hunter. That could be, and I think just taking the time to figure out, specialize in one thing. And I can see him being a dog, and we do really need that third running back. We obviously got the first two. If I don't exactly remember his running style, but we already got the Thunder and Lightning.
Reynolds.
So you could pretty much be whatever you want to be as far as or the good hybrid or balance back or whatever. I think we that third spot is not fully solidified. So I mean, at one point last year we signed some dude off the Jets practice squad. What was his name? Knight or something. So I think we definitely there were just like any other position. You could lose both running backs in a day.
I think we were down like 3 or 4 at one, like for a couple of weeks there, where it was at least down Montgomery, then lost Gibbs. Like they kind of alternated for a couple of weeks, and then Reynolds kind of in there holding it down during that Tampa Bay game when everybody was out. You just need guys, and hopefully they found some guys that can, be impact players when they name call, make plays when that time comes.
Yeah, man, we definitely have to get into this, but just like the expectations for this upcoming season, is I'm interested to see how the team is going to handle it. I mean, you already see Golf. I forgot on what random podcast, but saying, the city doesn't even know how to root for people. Basically, they're like, they're that type of stuff. They're,
Yeah.
how
I kind
negative
I
they
saw that.
are and everything. So you know, um, I don't know, man. I want to see them double back and at least get the division again. And
Yeah.
just I forget exactly what our home record was last year, but like defend the
Six and
den.
two.
Yeah, something like that. Like somewhere in that ballpark again. I mean, we're gonna have some tough teams come in, but defend the den, still those couple of road wins. Not to get too much until we don't even see the schedule yet, but I'm excited, man. I just see the building blocks and what we're trying to put together here, and
Sure.
it's I don't know. This is probably the most confidence because I didn't have a lot of confidence going into last year. I was still on the fence about Dan, still on the fence about some things, um, and I mean it's quarterback. I feel solid on. I mean, Golf has his good and bad days, but feel solid on the quarterback. Running back room were great.
Yeah.
Defense, I feel much better about. O line, one of the best in the league. Pretty much the only question mark is what's that receiver room going to look like,
Hmm.
particularly wide receiver 2 and down. Well, other than that, I think we're pretty much
Good to go.
yeah, like for
Yeah,
real, we're loaded.
for sure. Yeah, no, and I think too, obviously it's like a year at a time, but I'm just like, man, hopefully the next 3, 4, 5 seasons we can start to rack up a couple of division championships, a couple of deep playoff runs, still a Super Bowl, couple conference championships. I mean, I think we're just situated well to. I think we could definitely do like a 49ers type run where you get into the conference championship, you get to Super Bowl a couple times. Obviously, hopefully getting the job done. But I think we are positioning ourselves where we're peaking, and teams like the Niners are like they're
Yeah,
up there, but they're kind of starting to, they probably end up trading Debo or Ayuk. You got like some of these teams are gonna start kind of losing them key pieces just
yeah,
because they've been added, so many bites at the apple, but didn't get it done. So like, having to pay everybody and everything, stuff like that. So we're just positioned very well where, we got this couple of contracts taken care of. I'm confident we'll at least get Golf. I mean, he got to play any. We need him and he need us. So
yeah.
whatever happens with that, it's it's however it plays out. I think they do get it done, but yeah, I mean, I think this is the best I ever felt about a season after the draft.
100%. When you talk about just the nature of how teams they start to build up. They got to pay all the good players. Similar like we just drafted the week of the draft. We signed or inked like over $200 million of guaranteed deal. So we got Hutch coming up. We got Golf coming up. So we're entering that as well. But we're in the early stages of that, where somebody like the Eagles have been paying people, the Cowboys have been paying people, Niners
Yeah.
been paying people. So I think, like you're just saying, it's time for them to kind of shed off some of that things that may have not worked, recalibrate,
Hmm.
and then that's right around time where we can hit our stride.
For sure.
So I do think it's still pretty open, and I think we're going about it the right way. Um, and every year he just take different things off the block. I mean, when they took over this team, we were down bad. We had nothing, and we were ready to throw Golf to the side and whatever. And all right, so we built a team up around Golf, running backs, Hutch. I think so. I think we season by season, draft by draft, we're eliminating things off the board. Uh, and now we're just in a good, interesting spot. So, bro, I'm happy. I'm excited about it. I'm happy about it. I think this draft was. I'm not. I'm satisfied. I'm happy, but I'm not gonna act like it wasn't a sexy draft. But sometimes you don't need those. Sometimes
Yeah.
we need the ones that we won't even realize how good of a draft it was until mid October. We're like, damn, bro, like
Right.
a bunch of these guys are playing.
Yeah.
Um,
The sexy
whatever.
draft would have been receiver first round,
Exactly.
second round.
Exactly. Yeah,
Just
something for us to come on here and argue about and talk about. It's not a lot to say. We got
yeah.
good cornerbacks, 3, 4 year starters
Hmm.
in an awkward draft where Terrion or Arnold probably would have, I mean, easily could have went 13 and we got him at
Yeah.
24. Easily could have went, I mean, it's just a weird draft. So I think that shifted all the defensive players back. So we just kind of ate up on the bargains that were sitting there. And so I'm satisfied. Like I said, I think I'm gonna stick around right around that B, and I'm just, I mean, obviously we got the whole summer, but I'm hyped. Can we get the Hard Knocks back or something? Can we get?
Right, yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's like I said, best I've ever felt after a draft. Um, I'm just looking forward to hearing more about these new players, these rookies, and yeah, fast forward to next season to see who comes out to shine. Once we get into like training camp and preseason
right.
and that part of the year as well. So
Yeah, and just further like Laporta, we mentioned him, all pro
yeah,
tight end,
taking the next
future all
lead.
pro tight end, I should say. You know, I think he did make the Pro Bowl if I'm not mistaken, but
Yep,
just uh Gibbs we've mentioned, but really realizing what he can do and get him loose in more spots.
it's like what else could he? Man, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And like I've
J-Mo.
been
I
talking about it for a
mean,
while, but if J Mo's not going to give us 1,000 yards receiving, we got to get him back at kick return, to punt return. We just got to get the ball in his hands,
yeah,
and he could settle around that, 500 yards receiving, a couple of touchdowns, punt return or two, kick return or two, and I'm cool with that. But we just got to get these weapons on the field and maximize them.
for
So,
sure, for sure. Got anything else?
no sir,
Cool. Be back with y'all next week. Till next
yes
time.
sir. Peace.
Peace.